All right, so the first way is that I lost my folder. Chloe, what did you do to my folder? There we go. All right, so I have, nope, that's not the one. That's not the one either. Where did I put your file? So I have this. Chloe delivered this last week. And we see the structure of her.
Up and down at a later date to any application.
Can you all see
the key to draw a circle on the artboard? Play around the light.
Small.
Like stroke.
It's a little small.
Duplicate this circle, then stretch it vertically while holding the Alt key. Select the pen tool, then hold Alt again to toggle on the convert.
All right, who's talking?
Click the top and bottom points to change them into corners. The convert they go to generating cool art because the vector elements can be scaled up and down at a later date.
What is going on?
I think it's Randy.
Grab the ellipse tool.
Your mic is on.
Randy.
For a circle on
Randy.
Yeah, I muted it.
All right. All right. So this was the last project that you had. And remember, we were going to try to do an animatic on this one, and we ran out of time. She did her map, and she was practicing doing the storyboards in the correct way. She got yelled at because the boards aren't slugged. There's no shot numbers. There's no panel numbers. There's no camera directions underneath that. And literally, the thumbnails are too close together. You want a lot of room so that you can be making notes, right? You can see that she's got a couple of notes in there, but there's just not enough space. All right, so she's done being yelled at, right? Right, okay. But I like the presentation, and I like the fact that she had paid attention to the aspect ratio, and it kept it nice and clean. She's got 50 story panels, 80 story panels, and it looked like it was working really well. Yay for Chloe. Okay, but now what I had done this afternoon was take a screenshot of every single panel. And the first way that you can do an animatic for yourself is take a screenshot of every single panel and put it in a folder. And I don't know if you can do this on a PC, but on a Mac, I can do a little preview, right? And I can say, can you, and I know it's really small, right? For you, and then I can arrow down. Paying attention to time and not hitting my button every single time in the same moment, but just trying to do it like it was a movie. Right, did everyone see that? So that's the first way. That gives you a real good idea of your shot sequencing, your flows, whether the camera's in the right place. So this falls right into my little theory about getting the camera in the right place and making sure that it's all working. So that's just me taking a screenshot of every single one of the panels. Right? Does everyone understand? All right, so then from my list, there's a bunch of other ones. Well, what I'm going to try to do is I have After Effects open right here, and I don't want to dive into this right now, but what my intent is that we go from this into maybe into After Effects after we get through our critiques here. Because we do have a lot to do. But I think that it's important for you to see how to do an animatic in After Effects. You can draw in Rough Animator. And instead of treating Rough Animator like an animation application, you can simply just treat it like it was a storyboard application. What's the main problem in doing it that way? Does anybody have rough animator?
I do.
So what's the main problem?
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Okay, and this is like a strange open-ended question. So, Emma,
Yeah,
what's the main problem?
I'm not very sure because I cannot use the tablet very well.
Well, that's a big issue. I think that as we artists all completely transition into the digital age, it's going to become necessary to have a stylus and a digital tablet. Even some of the students at the high school that I'm teaching at bring in a tablet and a pad. And so that's going to be a thing. And the prices for them will drop. The more people that buy them, the more the price will drop. No, the main issue is that there's no place to draw outside the frame. Remember, I keep telling you, you just use your hands, draw the perspective grid and then move it around and then frame it. But in rough animator, you have to you have to stay inside the 1280 by 720 ratio. And there's nowhere to make notes. You can't draw outside the frame. And so it becomes problematic if you're trying to keep track of what panel number goes where, and if you wanted to move something around, it almost makes you want to say, let's scan the drawings and then put each scan into rough animator to do the animatic. And then you're like, boy, this ends up becoming a lot of work. Storyboard Pro is a great application. It's expensive. It's the top of the heap. Many of the working studios have their story artists work in Storyboard Pro because it's linked to Toon Boom and Toon Boom Harmony. They work in unison. They work in harmony together. But I think that because I don't know if Paul has Toon Boom. Does he? I think he does. I think he has some licenses for Toon Boom in David's class, but I don't know if he has Storyboard Pro. So I'm not going to introduce you to it because it would be silly if you can't use it. You can also draw in Photoshop. You can also use the animation timeline in Photoshop to do an animatic. All right, and then I have another note that says, when I first learned how to do animatics, it was on half-inch tape. It was on VHS tape. And it's like, okay, we're not going backwards in time. I'm not going to have you videotape this and then play it. That would be really silly. We were fully in the digital age. We just got to figure out a really clean way to go from just looking at thumbnails or even full JPEGs, right, into making a movie. And we could do that in After Effects, and I'll show you there's a fairly easy way to do it. But then again, I understand that none of you have After Effects, because the only way to have After Effects is to either have the standalone application or the $30 a month license for the Creative Cloud. The high school that I'm working at is stuck in 2014 Master Suite, the Creative Cloud, the CS6, the Creative Suite 6. And the Creative Suite 6, when it went from CS6 to the Creative Cloud, it's a very different set of programs. Woof. You know, I've been trying my whole life to learn how to say woof and sneeze at the same time, and it's really hard. All right. So that's my plan for tonight. Let's take a look at what we've got. All right, I've got refresh the screen. Yeah, we looked at that already. I'm just gonna, I'm not gonna do that. Hold on. How come it won't let me go backwards? So I was on the wrong tab. Okay. All right, so I forget what we were doing here. Let me just take 1 minute of your time. I think that these were the stories. Yeah, these were just your scripts. Okay. So let's look at your indigenous peoples. I still have to grade those. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize. Those first two columns are what you should be using to put your stories and your character designs in. What we're looking at is right here, indigenous peoples. All right, Victor. Okay, so Victor, did you just copy this from somewhere online?
No, not really. I just had to rewrite it a little bit though. But yeah.
Okay, so we're native Hawaiian. So this looks good. And so that's you rewrite. Here's your script. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm speed reading it. Shark and the native peoples. Heroes are triangular in form. Okay. All right. And I was looking for thumbnails too.
Yeah, I'm still working on that. I just
Okay.
lost a bit of progress because of the power outage. So yeah, sorry about that.
Okay. So this is a good start. The story looks good. And remind me, can you see each other's submissions
No.
on Canvas? Yeah.
No.
You know, that's always confusing to me because everyone can see everything at the Academy. And I like down here in the comment, if I say hello, you can only see that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, at the Academy, everyone can see it. And I accidentally thought I was working at the Academy and I did their progress grades in the comment. And I had to quickly erase them because everyone could see what I had written. All right, so Victor, this looks good. Maps and thumbnail, please.
All right.
All right, so Kalia, if she's missing, how does he know she's dead?
Well, actually, the original story, it was a little bit longer, so I had to shorten it. Basically, she disappeared into the forest to go gather like some fruit or something, and then she never came back.
Right.
So the chief, he got sad, and then he locked himself up in his hut, and the people were starting to worry about him, so they told him to go look for her.
Okay.
That was the backstory, but it was too
Okay.
long, so I just cut it. a
Okay,
little bit.
I understand. Okay. So again, just be careful of drawing people that are laying on their backs in a map,
Mm-hmm.
unless they're supposed to be laying on their backs in the map. Otherwise, if a character is in the map, they should just be a circle. So this character would just be a circle. You know, maybe you might see the shoulders or a nose. But this is the map is always top. So this is like a little vignette right here. All right. Does he kill her with magical powers?
No, he's supposed to push her away from the wife because she was trying to kill her with an axe. So he pushes her out of the way and she falls onto the ground, which makes it crack.
Oh, I see. That looks like blood right there in panel 14. All right, so one suggestion would be is to when you get to the shot of this crack opening up, is draw vertical lines showing the earth cracking apart. Even in here, you can do that, because then it'll read more like fissures in the earth. And try maybe not to color in the whole area, because it just looks like a puddle. But you understand what I mean by the vertical lines?
Yeah, so it doesn't look like water.
And it doesn't look flat. It's supposed to be a depth. I mean, quite literally, you should have, like just in this shot, panel 15, there would be a vanishing point over here and a vanishing point over here, or a vanishing point in the middle. But if you're using 2-point perspective, then it would look something like this, right? And then the 3rd-point perspective would be down here. So it could be that those lines from the fissures in the earth are all converging into a vanishing point down here. And I think that would help too. Even if you just drew those, your perspective grid on there, I think that would help. All right, so the thumbnails are looking good. Let me see continuity for story. All right, so all right, so I think this is pretty good. There's one thing that's just catching my eye, and that is that this character in panel 6 just appears out of nowhere. So I think you need an establishing shot. I think that in your map, it would really help here to designate where everyone's standing. And so, like I said, it's, maybe the chief is standing right here and the witch is coming from here. And who is the other woman? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
The other woman is the missing wife.
Oh, she's the missing one who just appears, the wife, okay. And so, and the wife is going to come from this direction, right? And so you can just write chief and witch and wife. And then you can figure out your action, and then you can figure out where your cameras go. But I think you need an establishing shot. And so if camera 1 is your establishing shot, then you can draw this so that we can see the witch moving from this direction off screen onto screen. We can see the chief standing here. And then as the witch comes in here, you can get the wife to appear from this direction, just so that we know that you're establishing where everyone is in the shot.
I understand. My mistake was making the establishing shot camera 3.
Panel 3?
No, camera 3.
This one here,
When
panel
you-
9?
No, when you go back up to the map, the camera that's in the bushes,
Well, right. I think you can do that, but your establishing shot, a traditional interpretation is that it tells you where everything is in the shot. It's like a master camera. And so this shot does not include the chief. So that shot would be like right here in panel 6. And I think that you could handle this. You could handle this okay if you drew where the chief was in this scene right here. And then you can have him rushing in from off screen to deal with the witch. And he pushes her. I don't think that I would draw these lines like this for your final boards because it looks like he's using magic. Just have him actually interacting with the character and pushing her. What happens to her axe?
I was going to draw it above the panel, but I didn't want it to get in the way of the panel numbering.
Well, I think that you can have it just moving out of this shot, right?
Right.
All right, and then just the magic is that the witch falls and creates the fissure in the earth, which opens up wide enough that it does swallow his wife, and then fills back up again and leaves a pile of salt, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I think you've got everything in place pretty well. And your 27 panels is good. I think I would just work on this interaction and make sure that it doesn't look like the magic is happening. And making sure that we know that this axe didn't just magically disappear, and widen out the shot for panel 6 so that we can really see where the chief was. And it's going to be just a little confusing to your audience because the chief will be standing over here, right?
Right.
And then he'll come, and then he'll rush in from this way. But the thing is that in the story, the chief was looking for his wife. So it's just a little confusing that he was looking for his wife, and then his wife goes right past him to confront the witch. Wouldn't there be like the shot where the chief sees the wife and reacts and follows her before the wife even interacts with the witch? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay, so I think you should just kind of think about that for a moment and get these thumbnails back up to storyboard size, and you're good.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, that's good. Thank you, Kalia. Can we have some hands for Kalia, please? Okay, Carmen. Carmen,
Yep.
what is this word? Wind swirls around him,
It like takes the form.
takes the form. That
Yeah.
word is takes. Okay. Okay. Okay, good. Okay. I liked how I ask you for thumbnails and you give me intermediate size storyboards. You did this the last time too. But you've got gestures in there, and the quality of the drawings is okay. He's paddling. He hears the spirits. Nice. Okay. Okay, this is great. When you do the final boards, I think that you've got a really wonderful moment here of the chief interacting with the spirit, and you really are starting to see how he's feeling about this. Give yourself another couple panels before you fade to black.
Okay.
Right? So yeah, this is good.
Mhm.
And then he returns home. Okay, this is very good. So his wife has just died and visited him as a spirit just before she leaves, and oh, he comes back in again. I didn't pick that from the script, but this is good. So what I would recommend is that this is a really important interaction here in panel 12. He would be like very surprised. You know, what you have drawn here is a reaction that he's seeing the spirit, which, and this is okay, and he's surprised, maybe a little worried, right? And so it says woman's face, but does he recognize this woman's face as his wife?
In the story, it's not super clear. He thinks it's his wife, but he's not sure entirely.
Okay, so like I said, then what you would like to elaborate on here would be the part of the story where you're talking about his inner voice. What is he thinking? It's like, who are you?
Okay.
You know, you kind of look like my wife. And then that would help you define what his facial expression should be. Because then here he might not be so happy. He would be more worried. He would be like,
Yeah.
what was that? You know, unless this routinely happens to him, and he's visited by ghosts a lot, then I think that you should really study that transformation of just being a regular traveler into, oh my God, I'm being visited by a spirit here. And then, yeah, not so happy here, but more worried. And not like he's rushing home, but then I think that you should visit this, panel 17A, panel 17B. What just happened? You know, I think you should do an extreme close-up on his face. So your camera would be, if this is the top view of this shot right here. Oops, sorry, my Wacom tablet is freaking out. So the TP is like right here. And here's where the chief enters. And that means your camera is right here for panel 17, right? Yes?
Yes.
I'm suggesting this camera right here, an ECU, an
Mhm.
extreme close-up, and I think you need this. Your 180 is
Okay.
here, but I think that you need this ECU. I mean, he's just seeing his wife.
Mhm.
And it's up to you. You can put it there, or you can have him approach, and when he sees his wife here on the ground and he realizes, so in your notes, it would be the inner voice, right? What is he thinking? And here it's like, oh my God. I mean, you've got the little exclamation points. That's good. That's fine. But as somewhere between the shot 17, panel 17 and 18, you need an ECU. You need
Okay.
an extreme close up on him realizing that something's wrong with his wife. And I think that you kind of sort of have it here, but this is a mid shot.
Yeah.
And I think that you really need the ECU. And then I think that there is one thing about his inner voice, where in this panel right here, it might be really interesting if you start thinking about the sequence of events and what your lead character is thinking. You know, he starts to cry. He's very sad that she has passed away. And then you can like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Right? Or, you know, oh my God, is she really dead? Oh, you know, oh my God. And then you could say, wait, what was that thing that just happened to me a minute ago? And he can rise a little bit and look around before her actual spirit comes in for the last time. And then there's this, like, huge connection to the extreme close-up and the acting that goes on in his face. And really the only way you're going to get that acting is to pretend and to act it out yourself in front of a mirror and to draw yourself as the chief.
Oh,
But this is
okay.
really good. So you're only missing a few extreme close-ups. And I think that you would, this whole thing, 20, 19, 20, 21, 22, can all be in extreme close-up, and then gradually pull out to reveal that the spirit is here, that her spirit is here. And that then that can change his demeanor just a little bit as he sees her move away for the last time. Otherwise, it's really good. With some hands for Carmen.
Thank you.
Have you had a chance to see Klaus?
Oh, I have. Yeah.
Yeah. So we never see his wife after she dies,
Mhm,
right? She's just the wind. But
mhm.
I think that in a feature film, Sergio Pablo could get away with that because we do see images of her at points later. And so we know that's her. But for here, this is good. To see her as the wind, it's a good touch.
Oh,
Okay, well done.
Thank you.
Well done. Hands, please. Yay! And if you're picking up on this, that I would like to see just the full boards next week. Because technically, Carmen, these are supposed to be thumbnails. You just drew them really big. But it's good, everyone just listen, because you can tell that her lines are drawn fast, and you did not spend more than 2 minutes drawing panel 22.
Yeah.
Right, so that's fine. So now get in and do boards. But they're good. Thank you, Carmen. Vivian. Where does this fairy tale come to us from, Vivian? Oh, Native American? Did
I
they
just
call,
look it up in the internet.
did they call her Cinderella?
It says a little Cinderella in the Native American version. It did not say like another
Oh.
name, but the
Oh, I
name of the sisters are Yellow Corn and Blue Corn.
Okay. Okay. And your map. All right, just as a reminder, remember that if this is your stage, a top view of your stage, that the 180 is in the correct orientation, but you could also put it back here. You could always just put it at the back of the stage. It doesn't quite matter as long as you follow the rules. All right, there's your little Cinderella. Okay. Remember that whenever you're doing anything in film and animation, your first shot, unless it's a James Bond movie, should be your establishing shot. And this should take 2 or 3 seconds. 1 second is really quick. And I know you don't have a lot of experience right there. It's good that these are different from each other. That's excellent. And it's good that this is all still kind of the same establishing shot, which is fine. And it looks good. And you're copying and pasting, which is good. That's how to get through an exercise like this quickly. Okay, so where does she drop her clothes? In your script, you have.
Yeah, she's supposed to have her clothes. I did forget to put it on her.
Does she? So in
When she went
this-
to the hole, she should already have her beautiful clothes.
Okay, so yeah, you need a couple extra panels in there. But this is good. I like how you did it quickly. I like how you're getting the notes. I like the attempt at doing your slug. That's good. Panel numbers, shot numbers. Okay, so this is good. I just make sure you get the action of her dropping her clothes. And then you mentioned something here at the very end. So is this the hole where she's taking a bath in?
No, that's just a hole. It did not say in the story, like, it just says that she went into the hole and then that was it.
Oh,
Like that
really?
was the ending. I just added the live happily ever after because it sounds so horrible that she went inside the hole and it never got out.
Well, a lot of these fairy tales are kind of based either on mythology or they end up being like didactic for kids. And what that means is that there's like a teaching element. You know, don't misbehave because this kind of thing can happen. So what is, in your intuition, the yellow corn and blue corn are the turkeys, and did they chase her into the hole? Is she afraid of them?
No, she's not afraid of the turkeys because the turkeys are the ones who gave her the gifts. So that's why she told the turkeys to fly away from yellow corn and blue corn.
Okay.
But in the original story, it just just says Cinderella went inside the hole and that was it. She never got out or escaped from her sister.
Well, I think that at this point, you just have to make sure that it's very clean, or that it's a very clear transition between panel 8 and panel 9, because you've got the turkeys over here. And the way I interpret it is that the yellow corn and blue corn are her sisters, but they're just spirits. And so I think that
they're sisters.
So I think that you can handle it like magic, that the 2 turkeys actually become her sister, and they morph, they change, and maybe that's what frightens her away. And you're allowed to reimagine that part of it. And then that might make this sense. And the other thing that you can do is, instead of having her going into a hole, because it looks like this, you were kind of worried about that. Am I right that you were worried?
Yeah, it just doesn't sound like a fairy tale.
Right, but it
Or
might
at least
be,
a good fairy tale
but
that
it might
you know.
be more interesting if she gets in a canoe and runs away. Right?
Okay, yeah.
And then you can have a look on yellow corn and blue corn's face, like looking at each other, like look at my hands in the monitor. they turn and look at each other and like, ha ha ha, we did it, right? We scared her away.
So the evil sisters win.
Yes. Try something like that. So she just gets in a canoe and flows down the river. It might work. It might be a really good variation of the story. Okay, can I have hands for Vivian, please?
Thank you.
Okay, it's good. Write those suggestions down so you can attend to them. Please.
Okay.
All right, so Laura, we looked at this. I think you sent this to me,
Yes.
and I told you we would talk about it in class, and this is good. I was looking at this, I was trying to figure out what these little things were, these little spices.
Yeah.
Did you scan them?
Yeah, I scanned it.
All right.
So, Professor, but I have some confusions
Sure.
because I don't know if I need to make the map with all the scenarios because the history here have very different and various scenarios. So I need to include all of them on the map.
Probably yes.
Okay. So that is why I can do that yet.
Okay. So you've got a long script.
Yes, because it's a long story. I think so.
And for
yeah.
us, I think that you just decide you're only going to do part of it, or
okay,
because that works for me. I think that if it's a 2-week project, I think that expecting 25 story panels out of you is good. But if the script is getting long, you can just say, hey, Billy, I'm going to finish it later or something like that.
Okay.
So I see that people are doing something in the chat. Oh, okay, you're talking to each other, that's fine. Okay.
And even for assigning the shots or scenes, I don't know if I need to mention scenes in place of the shots because, well, I am a little lost on that.
Well, no, I think it's okay.
Okay. So that is the start in my establishing shot.
Okay, so in this establishing shot here, one of the things in traditional cinema is that if the siblings lost their parents, you can imagine that in order to make that connection very visual, that you have the boy and the girl at their funeral, and you can see that their mom and their dad are laid out. And I think the Native Americans actually let the bodies open. Many of the tribes left their bodies open so that they returned to the elements. I don't think that too many of American natives buried their dead. Some of the East Coast natives did. There were burial mounds starting east of the Mississippi. But that might make more sense visually to see them at a funeral or whatever that might work, and then the tears would make sense. They just lost their parents, and you don't have to explain why. All right, so these drawings are good, and I like these drawings because they don't have borders on them. All of a sudden, what I had said for all of these weeks, saying just draw, makes full sense, because now we can come in here and we can say, where does the framing go on this shot? Is this framing just a static shot, or is there a camera move? And then because you didn't draw any borders on this at all, it's really the best way to just kind of figure out whether your story is visually working.
Okay.
Okay, so So this is, if I remember, is the backstory, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I don't remember this. The girl until the girl dies. So this is not this girl, right?
No, this is the feathers down is for the boys and the feather up is the girl.
Okay. All right, so one of the things that you want to think of when you're drawing storyboards is, especially for animation, is whether there's going to be a lot of dialogue. And so what are you thinking here? Is this a narrator talking?
Yes. Because how the story have a different topics,
Right.
or different scenarios. So I need to put some description to understand what is happened. I think
Right.
so. But if not working, so I can remove it.
Well, I think that what might happen, I remember that I had made a comment a year and a half ago that I didn't want any dialogue. Like, I don't want this, right?
Mhm.
I don't want you doing like this
Yeah.
comic book thing where you have words in here, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not what we technically do for animation. But after seeing Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse, I think
Yeah.
that you can think of putting dialogue in the shot. And so, and I think that this is why I wanted to wait until tonight to give you some sort of recommendation, because this is your regular static aspect ratio. You know, it's 16 units by 9 units. And you've got these drawings, and, you know, all of a sudden right here, you start drawing frames because I've been talking about the ratio. You know, this one's a little lighter, and that's fine. And I like that you're thinking of the whole environment here, where this shot would actually be a little bigger so that you can see all of that stuff. And then you're going to maybe, you know, do a zoom or a truck into a shot like this. And the same thing with this, where you've got a close up here on the boy, and you're going to truck out to reveal what he's imagining, right? So the same kind of thing. What you want to do, if you want to be more narrative intense, then very carefully divide up the bottom and use your narration here.
Oh, okay.
And what I would recommend is, you've done this with drawings and you've scanned it, but see if you can do it digitally, because in this panel 9, if you have 1 line of dialogue and 2 lines of dialogue, it might make sense to have panel 9 and then panel 10, which is the same as, so all this action right here is the same as this. It's the same drawing. It's just that their narration changes, and that would make sense. So make your narration part of the actual frame itself. And then I think that stylistically, or that any director could come in and let's say, you know, let's use this frame. Let's not use this as art, and let's actually borrow this back for the storyboard, and just have the narrator, hire a narrator to actually do the voice. But for you can try that.
Okay.
Just use the bottom, keep that bottom strip in the same place. So, and I drew it like this very carefully because this is still 16 by 9, which means that you're actually drawing 16 by 7 or something, because you're using 2 units for your narration. So give that a try.
Okay.
All right, and your drawings are good. I think that you probably spent too much time on them because you were worried. Because, you know, I'm really looking for gestures. I'm really looking for quick poses, quick drawings. But it seems to me like you've gone and you're trying to get the final storyboard right straight away. So I think that my recommendation for you would be is to just trace these back onto, so if this is 8.5 by 11, that means that this distance right here is probably maybe 2¼ inches. And so just trace them back so that you're using the 4 by 2.5 size. And so you don't have to do any work, just trace them back and get them into the full presentation panel. Because I think that you spent a lot of time on them, and you don't want to like kill yourself by having to redraw everything. Again, the idea is to draw really quick thumbnails so that you can just figure it out and then go back and do everything again the storyboard way.
Okay.
All right, so, and this looks good. Think about the camera move here in panel 14. Remember that in the reality, no two slugs should ever be the same right next to each other. You should never have 1 second, 1 second, you know, this is really 1.5, 1 second, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1. You're going to end up, it's good. First of all, that's too fast.
Okay.
It's just too fast. And you'll see when we do our animatic for Chloe that you want the timing of the panels to be just a little different. You want them to be different so that your eye isn't expecting the next story panel. Okay, so this is an important shot right here. Panel 20, the boy returning and becoming the leader of the tribe.
Yeah.
I think that what you need here is panel 20B, panel 20BC, panel 20, you know, A, B, C, D, more panels between panel 20 and 21 that are closer, that shows him rising to the occasion of being the chief, being the leader.
Doesn't matter that I need to add more thumbnails?
Well,
Because I was worried about that express the whole story, but how it's long, so I try to code in some parts.
yeah,
So because for the number of the thumbnails.
right. Well, I think that you're good. You just need a few more to explain what's happening in your story, especially right
Okay.
here. This is a big moment.
Okay.
And then the last note that I would give you, the last acting note that I would give you would be try using a line of action with your poses. You know, it is the thing that storyboard artists and animators use to set their poses. Draw that line of action. All of your characters are standing straight up and down. You know, so get them loose, loosen them up, show them action. Use close-ups where you have an extreme close-up where you're showing expression. But this is a very good attempt at your first Indigenous story. So congratulations. Looks good.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, thank you. Alex. Alex, are you with us? Or did
Oh,
you-
yes,
did you-
I have, this is not new. We've already been through this. I've been away.
What did you say? This is not new?
I thought you already looked at this. This was the coyote where you didn't like the clouds.
All right.
Maybe you just sent me an email about it.
Okay.
So maybe we didn't actually look at it in class. I don't know. I wasn't here.
Oh, right. Did you watch the video yet? You didn't have a chance.
No, I got back last night.
Okay.
So no.
All right, right. So I remember seeing this and I made a comment that It's looking good. I appreciate everything about this. And I made a comment that your clouds need a better aesthetic.
Yeah.
And you
I'm
said,
working
oh,
on
I
that.
like my clouds, but I
I
think,
will work on it.
oh,
for the
let me give you
storyboard.
just a hint. Can I
That
give
would be
you a-
wonderful. That would be wonderful, yeah.
All right. So I think that what you want to do is, I am going to jump over here. Oh, and you just busted me. I've been watching The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. All right, I am going to show you my effects board. And remember that if everything was in a perfect world, I would be like a world famous effects animator. And I wouldn't be doing all these other things. So right now what I'm going to do is figure out how I share this. Share. Copy the link. So this link for this board is copied. And there's lots of stuff in here. I've been adding to this board for like 5 years. There's just so many good things in here. I'm going to jump over to our Zoom class and I'm going to put it in the chat area so you can grab it right now. Okay. And I'm going to enter. And then I'm going to go back over here and I'm going to put it in our.
It's not showing in the board, in the comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, because I sent it to just Victor. You know, because I hate everyone else. Hold on. Everyone. Meeting. There we go. Okay, so now I'm gonna drop it into a discussion window for our class. So in the discussion, add a discussion. This is going to be effects board. So that you can always go back to it so you can see it. And it's linked. It's going to be open for the rest of the semester. Ooh, it goes all the way in the next year. All right, so this is my effects board. There's a whole bunch of really great stuff on there. All right, so when I looked at this, I thought everything was working pretty well. Your cameras are arranged pretty well. And I think that now would be the time when we say, hey, look, I'm going to go back to that board and see what some smoke looks like. And there's lots of different varieties of smoke. So for here, you might do well to have a decent shape right here. But I think that what you want to do is you want to have big shapes and little shapes and medium shapes and little shapes and then small shapes and medium shapes and really small shapes and then a bigger shape. And just kind of study what it looks like in its silhouette. And you've kind of got the silhouette starting to happen. But I think that if you can train yourself to kind of think this way, it might make it better. So you're close. I think you just kind of have to go in there and figure out what these shapes all look like. So remember, this is medium, very small, 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 medium, very small, big. So a variety of shapes will help you define your form. And it doesn't take a lot of time. And there's a lot of art in here. And there's a lot of aesthetics in here. And then just a lot of like looking at natural references. What do clouds actually look like? There could actually be holes in the cloud, right? There could be little spaces where you see the daylight. There could be little puffs of cloud that are not connected to the main cloud. So instead of just going, instead of being like crazy, you can be crazy at first, especially if you're digital. And I don't know if you have the opportunity to take the transparency down on this particular color, because then you can go back
Oh.
into it and say, oh, well, now I know what I want to do.
Can you do that? Can you do that in Rough Animator?
Yeah, you have to use different layers.
Okay.
So in Rough Animator, this green layer, you just go in there and you take your visibility slider and you move it to the
Okay.
left until
Okay.
you can barely see it. And then on a new layer above it, then just name this one like the real cloud. And then go back in there and figure out what you want your shapes of the cloud to be like.
Okay.
All right, so is that good? Does that help you?
Yeah. Yeah. I need to take a picture of it. This is how-
Especially, and there's a couple reasons for this. The first reason is that when you're drawing your thumbnails like this digitally, you really want to keep your line work efficient. You want to draw quickly and efficiently at the same time. And so if these are bushes, if these are shrubbery or bushes next to the coyote, then it's the same thing. Then just, you can have what's called a rough layer, where you're trying to figure out the shape and you can draw like this, but then go back in there and actually define it, even though it's just a still quick thumbnail, that you can go back in and then say, oh, this bush looks like this, or this cloud looks like this. All right, how the Columbia River started. Okay, the clouds are there and the coyotes howling and crying. And so the one thing that I wanted to point out to you is that this panel 15 is pretty good, where you've got the beginning of the river. And I know what you were thinking in panel 16, but give yourself a better sense of perspective. Follow your grid just a little more closely by actually giving yourself another vanishing point out here, and give the river a sense of perspective. And so then go back in and say, well, my river is going to go like this.
That's what I was trying to do. Thank you.
Yeah, I saw that, but I think that you were going line crazy. You were spending a little bit too much time going when you should have just been, oh, I have a vanishing point in the middle, which is fine, and then another vanishing point off over to the side, and that just helps your composition. And then this works, and then you're actually trucking into the coyote, and the coyote's being taken away. He comes out, so all of this is working fairly well. And then you pull out to reveal like what would technically be a master shot. So this is working pretty well. And I can tell by your line work that you were trying to be accurate. Like you thought about this wolf and you thought about everything in the shot. So my guess is you're spending about 4 minutes per short panel.
It varied, but yeah, that's a pretty good guess. That's
Where I would like you to try to speed it up. If you're doing a panel, try to make it 30 seconds. Perspective, horizon, ground plane, grid in the sky, where are things going, consult your map, draw the gesture for your wolf, draw the perspective on the river. Okay, good. 15 seconds later, you're done. Go to the next panel. Just go. I think that's everyone's challenge, but because you're working digitally like this, make it a big note for yourself. Put it on a Post-it, put it where you can always see it. Try to go fast when you're doing thumbnails. Okay, so yeah, this is working pretty good. And then spend some time on that last master shot. So then you can say, okay, make a note for yourself, draw this one like it's the postcard of the Columbia River Gorge with everything, right? All right, so this is good, really good. Welcome back, Alex. Yay!
Okay, so the deadline is now Saturday or Sunday?
Yeah, I have it set for Wednesday of next week, but-
Okay, I can do
but
that.
just because we're still remote. I just put the deadline for like next Saturday or something.
I can have a storyboard by Wednesday.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Chloe. Chloe. Chloe.
Hi, sorry, I was having computer issues. I wasn't finished with mine, so I didn't turn mine in yet. I know, it was really bad. Oh wait, what am I doing? My video can be on. Billy, you're gonna make me feel even worse.
I have a 2-dimensional heart and it's broken. A little
I'm very sorry
direction
for
arrow
that.
Just going that way. All right, get caught up, please. All right, Magnus.
Yep.
Did you guys have fun with this project, by the way?
Oh yeah,
Or-
it was really fun actually.
Yeah, I could tell. We're just to do this for the rest of the semester. And you're welcome to do that because in my notes, the rest of the storyboards, if we can get through 2 more, I think that would be great. And if you want to just use American mythology or Native American mythology, just go for it. Or any other country. If you're from Ireland, there's tons of stuff. There's tons of stuff from Scotland. It's like they had nothing to do in Scotland for thousands of years except make stories up. Magnus, the skeleton or the skull? Oh, I see. I'm sorry. Okay. Oh no, and then the skull talks to him?
Yep.
Nice, okay. The house collapses and then he says, I have blankets. Okay. Oh, look, you're trying to use the line of action.
Yep.
Work on it a little bit more because this character is still standing pretty straight up and down. Your skeleton is okay. Your map, river, okay. Okay, that looks all good. Okay.
Yeah, I did a lot of
All right, so-
preparatory camera work.
So this is not the map anymore. Technically, these are just your establishing shots
Yeah.
and your camera. So yeah, this is all good except that these are not maps.
Okay. I wasn't really sure what to categorize it as.
Yeah, they're just like establishing shots and they look good.
Mhm.
You're doing it quickly. Line work is quick. I'm not sure what this camera 4 is. It's
Oh,
just
yeah,
a wall.
Yeah, it's just the wall with the wall and the floor kind of crease.
Okay, it's just like a mid shot or something. Okay, your thumbnails. Okay, you got a camera move. If this is your A shot and your B shot, okay, so you're tracking. All right. So you say truck and follow, right?
Yeah, it's
But you're actually just tracking.
yeah.
If it's just a pan from right to left, it's just a pan. A truck would be the equivalent of a zoom for animation. It's going in or out. So this, just changes. It's like track and follow. Okay. Another camera move, good. Okay. You might want to try a 4B panel so that we can see an ECU on his face. Tell us what he's thinking. You know, he hears something, but let us see that he thinks he hears something. All right, then you zoom out to reveal this whole step. So be careful of this though, because you start in a mid shot. It's actually technically a wide shot. And you go from a wide shot to an extreme wide shot in panel 6.
Mhm.
And you don't want to do a crash zoom there because that would be really silly. But if you cut back, then this is technically a jump cut. And you don't want to do this. Remember, I explained why jump cuts are bad. So get him in the side view running here. So change panel 7 to a side view of him running. Okay, this is working.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to do sort of a what do you call it? Slapstick almost kind of run style.
Sure, that would be fine. I am a little concerned though, because, oh, he slides to a stop and he's still outside. Okay, so okay. So then he goes in. Okay. So remember that when he's here, I'm going to draw a map for you. So your map is right here. So this house is right here.
Mhm.
And so what we see, what the camera sees is this. What this shot is that your character, your man is here. And so what that camera sees is this. And all of this is like this camera, you're zooming and pulling right there. And so when he goes into this door in the next panel, you actually switch to a camera that is pointed this way because he's gone in and we see this wall. So there's a couple of things to think about here, and everyone can think about this, that this, so just remember this, right? I'm going to erase it. All right, so this is correct, that this is scene 2, right?
Yes.
And then when he goes in, so this is correct too. This is scene 3. So remember that little camera that I just drew? So in this establishing of scene 2, when he goes into the house in scene 3, you are allowed to put the camera wherever you would like. But because you put the camera on this side of the house, the door is on the left here, it's almost like you're following the same rules where your 180-degree line was slanted like this in the map for scene 2. And that's why scene 3 works really well. When you go to a new scene has a new line of action, always. But in your scene 3, your line of action is behaving of itself from scene 2, and that's why it's working. It's actually working pretty well.
Oh, good.
So the door slams. All right, so, hold on a second. So, yeah, I think that one thing that you're going to need here is maybe the ability to copy and paste the background in panels 14B, 14C, 14D to show these actions of what he's doing. He walks over, gets himself ready for sleep, and then he falls asleep. And then he's suddenly awakened by the slamming of the door. If you want your audience to understand how upset he is, you're going to have to be in a close-up. You're going to have to be a close-up on the door and then a quick cut to a close-up on here. You got to be careful that your audience doesn't laugh at his eyes, right? Because your audience is supposed to be scared. All right, and then this is a near 180. And then this cuts back to what he's looking at. And then you cut back here, a crash zoom to his face. So I think that you have the ECU right here, but I think that you're just too far away right here. In panel 17, you might want to just figure out, well, first of all, when he's laying down here, you have him too close to the edge of the screen. He is too close to the action safe, and he's too close to the title safe. So get him up near your focal points. And what might make sense here is, instead of having a facial expression in panel 17, just have him sitting up. The door slams, he's like, oh, what was that? You know, his reaction. And so adjust that adjustment will help this, and it will help the other shots too. Okay, so the ceiling starts to crack, it crumbles. And this is good, this is fine. Alex is laughing, look at him.
Yeah, it is quite funny.
Okay, and then a view from outside. Okay, that works. And then he's just scrambling out of there. Okay, so I'm gonna just give you a couple of pointers. First of all, I think that you should try to make this like an Adobe house. So give it those little rough timbers, like they did in the Pueblo, right? And then there's always thatching that goes on there. So, you know, and these are not technical thumbnails. These are kind of middle boards because there's just too much detail in there. But right here is a good place to start, where the door slams open, right? It just shoot, and it slams open, and show a character running right here. And then you just put this, he's really small in the shot. So you can have the shot start here and pull out and track and follow him, but then go over here even when you're doing thumbnails, what does that run cycle look like? What does the run look like? And go back to your animation and get the line of action, get the torso, and figure out what the legs look like and where the feet are and where the arms are. And you could have him looking backwards, and he's got his mouth open and he's still like gasping. Oh my God, what the hell is that? And then in order to make sure that he's off the ground, draw a little shadow. So this is what you should be looking at. And then you start with this one, which would replace this kind of pose. And then when you go backwards to do this shot, then it's a little easier to put head, line of action, and the running pose. Then you can see it, right? You can see that running pose a little more clearly. In this shot, both arms might be out in front, right? And so on this panel 28, you can have pose A, pose B, and then study it a little more. What does it look like when he gets a little closer to the camera? Maybe his other foot is up and the other foot is backwards, right? So that's the way to work with your gestures in one story panel, A, B, and C of him coming out of the house. You got that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
take a screenshot of that if you want. Got it?
Yep.
Got it, okay. All right, then the whole house falls apart. And then I know I love this. Is this part of the actual fable, or I have?
No, it's just something silly I wanted to do.
Did you come up with that?
Yeah.
It's great. I love this. Hey,
Thanks.
hey, come back. I have blankets. And so I think that you have to figure out a clever way to make this read. You know, hey, come back. I have blankets. I think that in order to get this to read, you're going to need to like study what the inside of that house looks like. So you're here, right? We're outside, but I want to see what the inside of that house looks like. So, get your perspective going and get the skull right here. With his little nose and his little teeth, right? And then start to draw the rubble and the cracks in the wall. And then get the skull to animate saying, hey, I have blankets. And then you could use the same thing that I just recommended. And you could put down here, you could just do the little narrator thing. Hey, come back, I have blankets. Just so that we can tell that that's what this skull is saying. Right? All right, and that's
Yeah.
very clever. Everyone likes that. Alex is jet lagged and he was smiling at your idea. So you know it's working. It's good. Very good. Okay, hands everybody. Yay! Good one, Magnus.
Thanks.
All right, Kyle. Okay. It says it was late. Okay. Okay. Guardian of Yosemite. Okay. Okay, let's take a look at your thumbs. Okay. You got all your thumbs on one paper. Okay, so I think that you've got everything in order and it's good. Everyone, this is a really good example of working out a camera move. So instead of just drawing the 16:9, you're actually drawing a longer panel. Remember, that's fine. I think you should be exploring that. And really at this point, when all of you are bringing your boards up to full size, you could even try something like this, where you're going to go from this shot to this shot. And I'm just using this as an example, that you can use a diagonal. Your pans don't always have to be left and right. Your pan can also have a tilt to it. And so the perspective is the same, right? This perspective in the sky. And so here you're just looking at a tree and a guy standing there, and you're going to follow a great hawk. So here you're going to follow a great hawk up in the air, and your camera is going to follow it. There's lots of room here. I think you've taken a lot of care in your panel numbers, your shot numbers, and I think that you're just hesitating on the slug because you just don't understand it yet, which is fine. But this is good. Try working out some type of more elaborate camera moves when you're doing your thumbnails like this. My first impression is that everything is working pretty good, but you need some close-ups. You're telling a story about the native people, and all this action happens, which is good, but here you probably need a different panel 11. You probably need a zoom in or a truck in or a truck out or something. Here, the same thing. Show us this wolf, right? So try the close-ups. It's always good to mix up a variety of different camera angles to keep your audience interested. Okay, so everything else is looking good. And I think that you're all inspired by these native stories, which is good. All right, you got those notes, Kyle? Thank you, Kyle. Hands for Kyle. All right, we have 5 more to go. Let us take a 10-minute break. Take a 10-minute break. Please. That stupid thing about the line of action in Mickey's Christmas Carol. It makes me furious every single time. It makes me want to stamp my feet. Oh, and by the way, what is it doing raining up here? This is October. It's not supposed to, I thought you were in charge of the weather. All right. So we have time. We're going to look at these last couple of boards, thumbnails. And then I want to do the little animatic demo. All right. So we've got Emma.
Yes, I'm here.
From the Alabama tribe. Bears don't eat acorns. What are you trying to pull, Emma?
That's from the story.
I know, I'm just teasing you. Your map looks like a bent skull. It looks like a skull who's going, oh. Okay. Bear could dance again. Bear came back. Fire got angry. Okay. Okay, good. Clear maps. I'm not sure why you need the multiple bits there, but that's okay. All right, so just like I think I mentioned to Vivian, where you've got a lot of narration under here, and I would welcome just breaking up your screen ratio to put the narration in a little word strip near the bottom. And actually that makes me want to mention one thing here, is that remember when the first day when we were doing this, that, you know, I said everyone, right, this is 16:9. When you break this up into cinematic thirds, both vertical and horizontal, this creates automatic focal points. And a lot of times when you're watching any like live action TV or movie, and you see a character standing here talking to another character standing over here, like, oh my God, it becomes so obvious that the director is using the cinematic thirds. And so because of that, a lot of cinematographers or directors will force the characters one way or another, just to break away from the obvious. The idea would be is that this is your 25th movie. And as a director, you're like, okay, I'm kind of sick of working with the cinematic thirds here. We can play with the area on the screen just a little bit more. One of my favorite photographs is of a wheat field in Kansas, and the wheat field has already been mowed, or I forget the actual backstory, but it's like this. That's all there is in the wheat field. And then way out over here, there's a tractor. That's it. And the rest of it is sky. It's like, this is power, right? And so now we can come down here and say, remember I said that I wanted you to all pay attention to the corners. The first corner is your action safe area. And then there's another one inside it. that is your title safe area. And it is those areas right there that we can now put your narration. And this is new in the 21st century because we're digital. This area out here, these little marks that I'm making here, were mainly established for this thing. Anybody remember what this thing is?
You make me feel old.
Yep. Anybody remember what this thing is? It's a TV and it had little legs on it. And this thing was a CRT screen. And when animators and cinematographers were making stuff for the CRT screen, they could only be safe if they knew that their shots were inside this area. There was actually a study done between the East Coast, places like Chicago and Denver, and then out on the West Coast for San Francisco and California, because these things were calibrated for how far north you were. And then broadcasts TV stations with those towers that were just broadcasting VHF frequencies, that they did a study where here that there was like a picture of a cowboy, and in one city it fit perfectly, and in another city it was like really, really close. And so it differed region to region. And so the animators traditionally always paid attention to the action safe and the title safe areas, and even staying away from it completely, entirely. But because we're digital now, we can break that rule here, especially if we're just doing animatics, especially if we're just doing boards, and because of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. All right, let me clear this. In digital, everything will be there. All right, so Bears, bravery. Okay, this is interesting. Breathing fire, that works. Were you worried about this, Emma? No, I don't think you were. This looks good. The only thing I'm worried about is the eyes. The eyes look like spooky right here. I think that you might have been confusing yourself just a little bit much. But I think the eyes of the bear should be back here. Are these supposed to be his nose? Emma.
Yes, I'm here.
So I would put the eyes for the bear here, and I would put his nose here. And I don't know what this is. All right, your drawings are good. You're probably a little bit more elaborate than what I wanted, but that's okay. Okay. Acorns taste terrible, by the way. Have you ever eaten acorn? They're really bitter.
Well, I thought you need to mash them and then soak them for a long time.
Yeah.
That will take out the bitter a little
Yeah.
bit.
They're still bitter.
I've heard they're poisonous.
They can be. There's different varieties. But the American natives had a pretty steady diet of acorns and porridge that was made from like poi or taro root or stuff like that. And their sweetness came from the corn or the maize. And they ate a very high fiber diet, basically. but with the intervention of American style food, a lot of native people in America right now they have a huge percentage of diabetes because their bodies are just not used to the sugar. And so they get fat really quickly and they become diabetic. And it's a big problem with native peoples. All right, so back to your board, sorry. All right, so I'm a little confused by your panel numbers.
Yeah.
Because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then why did you start over again?
Because for the short, the
Nope.
different short.
Nope.
Oh.
Nope, nope, nope. Your panel numbers keep going. So
Okay.
this is panel 9.
Yeah.
And then your fire, the close-up on the fire is panel 10. So make that adjustment.
Okay.
Make that adjustment, comma, please. No yawning, Chloe, no yawning. All right, I like your fire design, it's good. All right, so again, I think that if you're going to have intensive narration, just use that bottom strip of your story panel. And I think that your boards are coming along pretty well. There is a sense of perspective, even though I don't see the grid in every panel. But this is great. I love the characterization of the fire, and I like his little emotion. It's good that fires have emotion. All right, so here's a suggestion for you. When you're translating your thumbnails into final board size, and you've got narration like this on whatever panel number this is, this should be like probably panel 20 or something, whatever this one is.
Yeah.
Shot 3. Take panel 20 and put the first line of dialogue in it, and then copy it to panel 21, and then put the second line of dialogue in it, so that you're not forcing the words to be too small. Just use another panel to keep the words going. This is a great drawing of the bear being angry at the fire. This is great. I think that the bear is a very big creature. And in this panel 2 right here, for shot 3, the fire should be smaller because bears are very big creatures. So just make the fire smaller in this shot, which will give the next panel just that much more emphasis. It'll be like a zoom in or a truck in onto the fire, and your expression there is great. Now this is really cool. He's mad. Okay, this is great. Did you have fun with this?
Yes, I do.
This is great. So yeah, just make those adjustments to your panel numbers. And when you're doing your final boards, put the narration in the panel itself, just because make it part of the art. It's great. Thank you, Emma.
Thank you. I have a quick question for that, Billy, because the narrative, I think I imagine that there's somebody gonna voice it over.
Okay.
Like not on the screen. So
all right, then just do your final boards like this then.
Yeah.
So just use it like this. Use a correct 16:9 ratio, and then we have enough time tonight that we'll talk about slugging. All right, and so everyone is required to do a final board, and I'll give you directions for that again. But then you're going to need room over here for slugging.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that in a minute.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Riley?
Yes.
Why, hello, Riley.
Greetings.
Are you speaking with a a microphone next to your voice is really hot.
Very hot, you say?
Hot. Where's your microphone?
Oh, let me see. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's good. I'm saying it's good.
Does that sound better?
No, it's good. Where's your microphone? Riley. Is it, oh, is it on there?
Can you hear me right now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great.
All right, so, okay, let's see.
It's a short story, by the way.
Okay. All right. Give yourself a better thumbnail of your coyote. So get his head, get his line of action, give him a neck if you need to, but think about how he's built as a three-dimensional object and give him a line of action in his feet if you need it. Very typically,
yeah,
canines, femurs go forward, backwards, and then the paw. And then very common that the front, the humerus goes backwards and then forwards. Cats and dogs are like that. And so instead of drawing this straight up and down.
I forgot about the line of action.
So yeah, you can't forget about the line of action. Right? And then you can see he starts to look more like a coyote once you start building in the three-dimensional parts to him. So start working like this rather than just, oh, I'm going to do a final outline of him, you know, like a cave painting. So I don't want this. To draw more three-dimensionally and sketching and as you're sketching it.
Okay.
All right, he's sweating. Cloud comes over, it gets darker, but then it rains. Okay, and he's mad.
Irritated.
He's irritated. Okay, so what I would suggest is that you do have a couple of different cuts where you cut to the cloud or you cut to a view of the desert getting darker. But for the most part, your coyote is like standing in the middle of the screen for all these different shots. So I would make a variety of camera angles on him and a variety of, because this is a wide shot for the coyote. And so figure out what the mid shot looks like. So the mid shot is going to be where you can see most of him. And then a close-up is just going to be of his head and his shoulders. And then an extreme close-up would be of his face. So, you know, this is what your shot should look like here or something. So give yourself a variety of cameras.
Okay.
A variety of positions. And remember that I want you studying what the vanishing point on the horizon looks like, because I think this is what you're trying to do. The vanishing point would be here in the middle. So all of these lines have to converge to the vanishing point.
Oh, okay.
It's not just a blanket or a quilt that's on the ground. And, you know, Alex likes to keep things color coded, which is fine. You can do that, but there is perspective in the sky. And so once you do it this way, once you start thinking in this regard, then what happens is that you can then start placing elements in perspective. And so if your coyote character is out in the desert, then you can say, oh, well, there's maybe a cactus right here. And this cactus is like one of those saguaros or something, you know? And I'm just gonna sketch this in here. And so as this saguaro goes off into perspective, then anytime there's another saguaro, it makes sense that that saguaro would be that tall back there. And any saguaro on this plane is going to be the same basic size. If this saguaro right here is taller, then it becomes a huge saguaro because of its position in the perspective grid. Does that make sense to you? And then remember, you don't always have to draw your character flat. Your coyote can be in perspective too. So he can be a head and then draw the body in perspective. So he's looking at us. And then you can start to dress up your shot. And then you can say, what else do I need in this shot? We're out in the desert. Maybe we can see the playa back here, or the mountains or something, or maybe there's some clouds up in the sky. And maybe there's like other animals. And when we get to we have to talk about background, midground, and foreground elements. And so, maybe there's some weeds that are growing up around the rock or some pebbles. And that's the way that you take this. So, but the first thing you need to do is a variety of camera angles.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Riley. Hands for Riley, please. And Randy.
Yep.
Uh-oh. Speed reading.
Yeah, I loaded the whole story, not like a script.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I did.
Oh my God. Ah!
Yeah, I know. I did put script under my thumbnails, like notes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Hey. Sorry, my mouse is really sensitive. I yell at it all the time and my mouse cries. Okay. All right, so I think that what's working is that you've got this thing coming into the visual form. Let me finish to see if you got the story. The crow turns into dust. You spelled chief wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Careful, you are in college. And I'm a professor, so I have to yell at you about spelling. Oh wait, hold on. So he says play with the ball of light. So make sure that this looks like a ball of light and not a basketball. Right, so be careful of your character designs or your props. Crow takes form of a crow and grabs the ball. All right. Okay, so so this light, it's in a box in the house?
Yeah, the story was saying something about like this ball of light, like the daylight was in a form of like this sphere in a box
Okay.
that was sitting in a box.
So I think that you've got a good handle on taking a very long story down to just a doable number of panels. I want to make a couple of recommendations to now expand it a little bit, especially like in here. Like you've got the exterior of the house, you've got the crow turning into dust. Make sure we know that the crow has turned into dust. So follow your principles of animation of transmorgification, right? He's going to turn into something. And so show how he turns into dust in a couple of different poses. And then show the boy walking into the house and establishing the new scene. As long as this dust right here is supposed to be small, then the recommendation is start out with the crow, right? You've got the crow. And then the transmorgification would be is that he starts to become the dust. And so over a couple of different frames, he loses everything except maybe his eye. And maybe even a little beak too. And you could even like design a couple of other little bits of smoke. And then the fifth one would be, now this is really small. So you've got a beak and an eye. So the crow becomes this. And that's good enough just for right now, so that when the little dust particle is flowing here, it can be small so that the audience knows the crow flies into his ear. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult for us to know that this turned into this and is this at the same time. So you need this. You need this transformation. And in your storyboards, you can include this. And I think that you should say, here's my crow, right? And here's how he transforms. He becomes a cloud, a smaller cloud, smaller, and then he becomes like even that, right? And then for your son.
Oh, wait, I had a question about that. Would I put that in one panel or in a series of
Well,
panels?
you can do this like on your map. Like you can do this in your character design and in your map. So
Okay.
now here, you're going to want to work on light. So go back to that special effects board that I just invited you to. And what does light look like? It's energy, right? It's plasma. So just kind of think about how this thing might glow.
Yeah, I tried to do that and it ended up looking like the sun was in a box or like, yeah.
So you play along with me here just for a second. I'm going to switch to blue. So here you've got like a chance to play with more plasma kind of shapes.
Okay, I see where you're getting at.
And what is the sun? It's like, you don't want to draw like the spiral, but you can certainly allude to it that it's strong and that there are energy waves coming off of it. And you could go back to Native American mythology and see what the sun is represented on totems from all different kinds of cultures. But don't draw a basketball. And then continue this design as he's holding it, and then the crow picks it up and goes away with it. So you need more panels. Do you want to take a screenshot?
Yeah.
Let me know.
Yeah, got it.
So you're going to need more panels to describe all those actions. So you did a good job whittling it down to like the core elements, but now expand it a little more, like all those little notes. And make sure that if you are using a really long frame that you're going to include a camera move. Your camera aspect ratio has to stay the same. But the story's good. Your first attempt is good. Now do your full-size boards.
Okay.
Thank you, Randy. Hands for Randy, please. Yay! All right, we got two more. Paola.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
It's the same one as Emma's.
Oh, really? Did you two cohort on me?
No, I didn't know.
You just magically found the same one?
It was from the site you showed us.
Oh, it was, okay. All right, so this is good. I like how you're thinking here, both just sketch form. But remember, when you're doing thumbnails, I like to see you sketching through the story panel and not just filling in the boxes. Your perspective looks okay. You would get in trouble with me if it wasn't. All right, so the story is the same. Okay. All right, so you very much have the right idea. Okay, I think that this is looking really good. I like your sketches. This stuff is all right. So now just make sure that when you're doing your full-size boards that you put in the background, midground, and foreground elements. It looks good. It's very good.
Okay,
Paula, everyone. And Tristan.
Yep.
What's a wampus? You just made that up.
No, it's based off the story.
Okay. All right, these are a little flat looking. Remember to always draw three-dimensionally.
Right.
Arms are a little short here. Arms are actually very long parts of your body.
Because the idea is that they were just behind, a portion of it was behind the gun.
Well, that's called foreshortening. But you could work this drawing out a little better, and I could spend a solid 10 minutes giving you a lecture and demonstration on a better way to draw him. I'm just pointing you that there are better ways to draw the character three-dimensionally.
Right.
So what you're doing is you're trying to find the outline. And don't try to find the outline, draw from the line of action out. Draw the line of action first. The line of action is super important. All right, so now your sketches. Okay. All right, so watch your perspective here. Your grids are incorrect. And you know why?
They're going in straight lines.
Well, you don't have a vanishing point. Whenever you're setting this up, whenever you set up any particular shot, your horizon is here, and you choose, you're going to use 2-point perspective or 1-point perspective, then all these lines have to vanish to that vanishing point. And you're drawing outside, which is fine, but this is the grid. And then the ones in the sky do the same thing. They vanish to the vanishing point. And really, you're going to do this for every single panel. As soon as you do this right, you can see that you can draw in deep perspective. Again, remember everyone that when you do full board sizes, that the full board sizes are 4 by 2. Two and a quarter. So 4 by 2 1/4 inches is your full board panel sizes. That you've got a background that's very near the horizon, the deep background, and then you've got the midground elements, and then the foreground elements. So everyone should have all 3 of those kind of elements in every single panel. Okay, everyone okay?
Yes.
All right. So Tristan, I think that you need to give yourself a better variety of cameras. I think that you are following your drawing here, but I think that if you tried cameras that were a little closer and a little farther, oh, come on. I tried cameras that were a little closer and a little farther away, that your cameras or your characters wouldn't be just the same size in all these different panels. All right, so fix your perspective, make sure your grid's the right way. What are these supposed to be?
The trees.
All right, so go figure this out. You know, it's Billy's pet peeve. Don't draw ugly trees for me or I'm gonna dress like you and follow you around. Trees have straight trunks, they are wider at the bottom, and just draw the foliage. This is a better tree than that. And then remember, there's all kinds of different trees. You know, there's trees that are triangular shape. There's all different kinds of trees, but I don't know about these trees. These look like some science fiction structure, architecture or something. So if there's supposed to be trees, then figure out what trees you want them to be.
All right.
All right, so again, fix your perspective, background, foreground, midground, draw better trees. These look like mountains with globes on them. Are these supposed to be trees too?
Yes.
So make sure that they're trees, not mountains with globes on them. Or some odd abstract shape. And your characters then, I think, will appear better in the boards because those things are wrong, because your perspective grid is wrong and it's kind of abstract, and your background and background elements are strange shapes. As soon as you fix those, I think it'll be better.
Okay.
And make sure that you use a close-up when you're talking about the necklace, because I don't see the necklace. Right?
Right.
Okay, so a variety of cameras, better perspective, better background, midground, and foreground elements. And even in these thumbs, try to give your characters a face. That's the most important thing about acting for animation is the face. Okay, you got it? Can I see some hands for Tristan, please? Yay! Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to After Effects. And let me just explain. What I'm not going to do is teach you After Effects. What I am going to show you is how to think about timing in terms of Chloe's animation. Right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over to the folder that has her screenshots in them. So these should be coming in, and I'm just going to double check. They're coming in as pings. Ping stands for Portable Network Graphic. And I'm just going to take these and I'm going to select them all. They're time coded so that they're in the order that I shot. I just took them, recorded them in order, in terms of time. With them all selected, I'm just going to grab them and put them into my project area. So Chloe's drawings are all there. I'm going to create a new composition, and I'm just going to call this Animatic.
Pizza is here.
Your car okay? Yes. See you next week. Thanks. I appreciate it. Okay. Okay. Animatic 1280 by 720. I did that earlier. Background color is black. I'm going to say okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look down here, and this says 5 minutes and 45 seconds. And the way After Effects works is that if I were to drag all these images onto the stage, I would have however many images that she drew. I think there were 29 or 30, I forget how many. They would all be there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to composition settings. I'm going to make my composition a very small duration movie. So right now it's coming in at 5 minutes and 55 seconds. In After Effects, this is hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. So I'm going to take the minutes out. So now it's just 55 seconds. Now I'm going to take the 50 out. And so now I only have 5 seconds. And I think that if we started with the average shot length of 3, it might make even better sense. So 3. So now I have a 3-second movie. I'm going to say okay. And now this timeline is only 3 seconds. You can see the 3 right there. So now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to take all of her PNGs. I'm going to shift select them. I'm going to grab them and I'm just going to throw them right on top of my composition. And they're going to come in. They're all sitting there. They're all selected. Before I do anything else, I'm going to right click and say, transform, fit all of those to the composition. So now they're all fitting on the stage perfectly. So does anyone know After Effects? So you don't have to know this, but what I'm going to do is now After Effects is one of those movies where it is, you see what you get. So this is what her, oh, what did I do with your file? Chloe, where's your folder? I don't know what I did with your folder. Oh, Chloe, it's Chloe, this is it. So in this folder, this is what her story looked like. It was just all these right here. And this is why I chose to do this, because they're all neat. And we've got 4 by 5, which is 20. So this is 40 different story panels. If I go back to After Effects and I say, I got 40 panels at about 3 seconds a piece, that's about 120 seconds. It's about 2 minutes. So let's make this a 3-minute movie. And what we're going to do now, composition settings. We're going to take this back from a 3-second movie to a 3-minute, hours, minute, seconds. So minutes. We're at 3 minutes and 3 seconds and say okay. Now it doesn't look like anything changed here, but it did. So what I'm going to do now is take the viewfinder and make it go all the way down here. So that's your whole movie. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it about like that. And I'm just going to do this very quickly. And I'm going to do this just to demonstrate how this works. After Effects, what you see on top is what you see first. And so I'm going to, everything is selected as well. I can see just by looking at it. Is it selected? Yes, it's selected. So right here, I'm going to reselect. I'm going to shift select all of these images. So now everything is selected. I'm going to the first, this is what the camera sees right now. This is my playhead. As soon as I get past 3 seconds, I have nothing. So I'm going to control click. Hold on, I always forget. I'm going to option click. Nope, I'm going to command click the first image, and I'm going to stair step these out like this. And I believe it should snap. I don't know why it's not snapping. So command click this one, step it out. And I don't want them to have a black in between them, because then it will give me a flash of black. So I want these to overlap by just a little bit. And I'm just going to do this really quickly. And this is the wrong way to do it. This would be the equivalent of saying that every single one of your panels was exactly 3 seconds apiece. And you don't want that. You don't want this like your eye expecting the next cut to happen. And again, these are all 3 seconds long. And so each time my eye is going to see this size of the duration of the story frame, we know we have to change it. Unless we're actively want that shot to be 3 seconds long. And so right now we're just giving each one of the panels its own space in the animatic. And again, I'm command clicking this. So when I move this over, the other ones are still selected underneath it. And you can see it happening right here, so that it's bringing all the other ones with it. All right, so I've got these lined up now, and so now it's coming in at around, this says 1 minute, 49 seconds. And if I go to the very end, it says electric coffee shock your system, 1 minute, 50 seconds. And out here it's 3 minutes. So I have another minute. If I come back to the very first frame and just hit play with my space bar, this is what her animatic looks like right now. Everyone seeing it?
Yes.
I'm seeing it.
So it's not working yet. And the resolution is low because I just did screenshots and I brought them up to like 2K. So what we need to do is we need to go back to our first frame and say, this was her intended title card, right? But there's nothing there. She just did a little scritchy thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on the timeline just a little bit so I can see the durations a little more carefully. And I'm going to assume that that you wanted a fade between the opening blackness and this shot. So the second shot, I'm going to increase the duration to about half of this. And I'm going to Command Tab, open this up and say the opacity for this is 100%, key it, and the opacity at the end of it is 0%. So now it looks like this, watch. Okay, so that's just one cross dissolve. And I'm going to close this by Command Tab. Now we want this shot. When we say this is just her, but the guy's doing this, how long should this shot last for? I don't know, maybe 1 second. And so I know that these are 3 seconds long. So 1 second should be about that much. So I'm going to take this down to here. And there's the black that I don't want. I'm going to increase the duration of the second frame. And this is a continuation of this, which is a zoom. So I'm going to say that one needs to be really short too. I'm going to bring this one back and say that one is this shot. And if I take this and make it longer, this is the differentiation now. Each one of these little gray spaces, and I know you can't see when I do that, but each one of these gray spaces needs to be different. So I'm just going to assume that he looks at this pretty quickly, and I can get rid of that one. And I can take this shot, which is a complete cut, and just put it right there. So he's looking at the to-do list, and that should not be 3 seconds. It should be maybe 1.5. And then this shot right here is a cut away. So he moves his hand down. So that should be a fast shot too. And then this shot is a continuation of it. So this should be fairly quick. Let's give it about that much time. When you're working in After Effects, I usually overlap those a little bit. And you can see that I'm sliding the position of where the PNG first appears by just grabbing it and moving it. All right, so remember, these are 3 seconds. I'm going to decrease this about 1.5 seconds. And now this is another cut. So let's leave this one at or around 2.5 seconds. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way to the bottom and select all of these again, and then slide them all over like that. And so what I can do now is really quickly, in just a few minutes, figure out what each one of these panels should last for in terms of timing. So we see this, which looks like the stack of dishes. Let's take the timing down on it a little bit. Let's take this one. This one is back to him again. So he's thinking, let's make that kind of quick. This one is coming up into his face. This one is wiping his face. So these are continuous actions between this one, and this one. So all of 3 of these together comprise about 3 seconds, maybe, like that. And then this one is a cut to a close-up. So I'm going to actually decrease this position and end right there. And again, I'm going to go all the way to the bottom as quickly as I can here and slide everything over again. All right, so now what does this panel look like? So this panel is a full wipe of his face. This is another cut. So let's leave it like, so you can see that there's a differentiation in the stair-step timing. And you can tell because I'm not changing the duration of any of these more or less right now. So right now I've got the wipe and a cut, and I want to decrease the timing on that one a little bit. It shouldn't be 3 seconds. So that's just a shot of the counter and a camera move. So right here we've got the countertop. And then the next one is a continuation. That's like she planned a pan, right? So you can see that pan right there. And then the next one is a continuing of the pan. And so I'm going to make that even shorter, just like 1/2 second. And then we have a cut to the coffee pot. So there we go. And I'm going to move that one over just a little bit. We don't want that to be 3 seconds. So now the character has fallen. Let's let that one live for the full 3 seconds. Let's just let the audience think about that one for a moment. All right, and then this one is him getting up. So this needs to be a continuation of that shot. So we're only going to have that on for maybe a second. And then this one is her standing up. So let's move that over a little bit. And then that's a cut. And you can see that little green line. That's where After Effects is thinking in the background. I have not saved this yet. So it's creating temporary file save for me. All right, so this shot should probably be about 1.5 seconds. This shot is a complete cut. So let's let that one live for about 2 seconds. She grabs up. So she's here and she grabs up. That's a cut. So let's leave that at about 2 seconds. And then she cut. So this is a cut to a close-up. And we can see her about halfway through this. So then since she cuts to a front view, we'll decrease this to about 2 seconds. Then the drink. So this needs to just be a continuation of the shot before it, just really quick. And then we want to spend some time just having her freak out. So right now, if I take this and move it over and then take the duration, oh, hold on a second, of this shot, then we're going to leave that on for a bunch of seconds. So now we're going to come over here. So that's like it's like a zoom away. So we're going to take this and move it over. This one is her jumping up in the air. So then this one is her running. And so we maybe want to spend a little bit of time here having her run, just so that the audience can have fun with it. This shot is a continuation of the run. So it's going to be quick. Let that one be quick. This shot is her going off the screen. So that's going to be quick too. So right here, if I just say run, 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 and off the screen. Okay, good. Just by looking at that, I'm going to decrease this, move this over, move this over. I'm going to take the last few frames and move them over. Then we see a sparkly kitchen. And then this shot is over. What does that mean by overdue, Chloe?
Overdue stuff like deadlines, bills.
Oh, so that's her like desk?
That's the desk, yeah.
All right, so having said that, we want to spend some time looking at that so we understand. And then this one is her running again. So let's play with this and have her run for 2 seconds. This one is the desk again done. So we saw it here, we saw the desk here, and now we see the desk again with the done. So 2 seconds is fine. This panel is her running towards the camera. So let's leave that on for 2 seconds. And then the electric shock your system. All right, I'm going to save this. And so this is just Chloe Kim. It's going to go on the desktop as an After Effects project. And we're going to go all the way back to the beginning. And so this is what the animatic looks like right now. So again, what I don't have is the actual numerical representation of how much these times are, because I know that this block right here, this little blue block is 3 seconds. So I can only estimate that it is on for 1 right now. And our movie is coming in at about 1 minute, 10 seconds. So let's see what this looks like. Too slow. Too long of time. That's fine. That's good. Okay, so that's what an animatic looks like, right? And again, the idea is, stop it, After Effects, stop it. The idea is that each one of these images should last for a different amount of time in your timeline, and this proves it. So now what I'd like to do is show you a camera move. And so on this last panel right here, which is lasting now for 4 seconds, we're going to open this up and we're going to key the position and the scale and the rotation. And we're going to come out here to the very end of it. And we're going to come away from our screen and we're going to grab the corner of the image and we're going to keep the shift key selected, and we're going to zoom in. And oh, you can't rotate on the stage anymore. You have to rotate down here. So rotation, I'm going to rotate it this way, and then I'm going to grab it again and move it this way. And she's coming off the stage a little bit. You can see the background in black right there. And then I'm also going to say, hey, let us take the position back to here, key the opacity at 100% opacity, and then out here at the very end of the film, key the opacity at 0. Save, go back to frame 1 and play again, just to see what we've got. Take a look. Let's jump ahead to this part. She's running, she's doing her work, she's cleaning. That's good, but maybe a little too long. Running, done. And running towards the camera, and done, and fade away. Okay, so I did that in 20 minutes, just because I know how to do it. But so that's the idea of what you should be thinking about, the level of thinking that you should be thinking about when you're actually drawing your thumbnails when you first start. How long do I want to look at this? How long do I want to look at this? Does the camera move? Right? Does the camera move in? Does it move out? Does it track? Does it follow? Does it tilt? Does it turn? Do you want to do a fade? That's what a fade looks like. Do you want to fade up? Do you want to fade down? So that's what you should be thinking when you're translating the script to those first thumbnails. You got this? So I think that everything that everyone was showing tonight could be put into an animatic. And I'm not expecting you to work in After Effects. Maybe a couple of different times during the rest of the semester, I can pick a couple of boards, just like I did with Chloe's tonight, and show you what your animatic or your storyboard would look like as an animatic. And it does work. And Chloe, what do you think? You just saw your board that you drew come alive. What do you think?
That was really cool. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that turned out even better than I thought. But yeah, that was like super awesome. So thank you, Billy.
Yeah. So I'll try to do this a couple more times during the semester. It would be horrible in terms of me trying to turn every single board for all of you into an animatic myself. What we don't have is the slug, the shot number, the panel number, the duration. But now you all can see, we started with each panel being 3 seconds. And there were only a few panels in there that lasted 3 seconds. 3 seconds is a long time. All of a sudden, I'm from Long Island. I'm from New Jersey. 3 seconds is a long time. So when you're slugging your board, you might want to shift, instead of saying 2 seconds, 2.1, 2.2, or whatever. You could switch to frames. 2 seconds is 48 frames. So just make that little card that I suggested for you of the equivalent of a quarter second, half second, 3/4 of a second, second, 1 1/4, 1 1/2, 2. And the equivalent in terms of frames, and then just slug your boards out in frames. Make sure that if your character's running, that if you've got 3 panels of running, that it's okay if you do 12 frames, 12 frames, 12 frames, because then you've got 36 for the whole run. And 36 frames total is about 1.5 seconds. Okay, so next week, I'd like to see final boards on your Indigenous project. Just the boards with emphasis on perspective, background, midground, and foreground elements, BG, MG, FG, Get the slugs in there. Now that you've seen it in action, get your slugs in there. Your drawings don't have to be clean, but I want to see, I've suggested to a bunch of you that you need extra panels. So if you're going to need to put panels between frame panel 20 and panel 21, then you could just slide them and say 21, 22, 23, 24, which would be obvious. But then on your roughs, make sure that you know that the panel numbers have all changed in your original story. All right.
All right.
That was a lot of work in 15, 20 minutes. And obviously, I could fine tune that. Obviously, I could go into that project and really get in there and close and make the animatic just really work, spend an hour on it and just get those panels timed perfectly. And then make the critique and say, you know, I need extra drawings here. I need to see her doing this and running in and running out and the cat running around and headed out towards the cat door. You know, all kinds of fun things can happen, right? And then like the neighbors doing this. What's going on over there? The house is shaking, right? The exterior, the house is like shaking like
I was
this.
gonna do that originally. I was gonna make the house shake, and then I realized I had so many panels. I was like, I can't do it.
And then the mice are running away and the eagles are flying away. What the heck is going on in Millbury Street? And then an exterior shot with the house all glimmering, gleam, Wing! Right? And it's a perfect example like that lets you see that camera outside the house, right? Because now you're like, oh yeah, maybe I do need that. And I like that idea of the neighbors going, what's going on over at Chloe's house? You know, and then they close the door and lock it and bolt it, you know, all those things are part of story for animation. Then the other neighbor like goes out and welds steel bars in front of their house, just keep away from you. It's a woman on a mission, let her be. Let her do her own thing. Okay, and the last thing that I would like to mention tonight is that we do have a bunch of weeks left. And so at least 2 stories for the rest of the semester. These are yours. You can do whatever you want. And I don't want the same story from everybody. I don't want aliens, right? Just make sure that you're coming up with a story for an audience that you wouldn't normally write for. Write for an audience that is for very young children and stretch your imagination. Write for a genre that you're not comfortable with, that, you know, this indigenous people, just, it should have intrigued your creativity and your imagination because you were forced to do something. And so force yourself to think outside the box and the results are better usually. All right. Everybody okay?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Should we try to like make an animatic on our own or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you saw the first one I did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you just hit the down arrow on your keyboard with all your images, and you get a good idea of what the timing is going to be. Again, you can draw. Where would you plan on doing your animatic?
There's like an animation feature on Procreate, which is what I use to draw, so I would probably use that.
So that would be fine. Remember, I want to see that you understand how to do the slugging properly.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure that you give me that and the animatic.
Okay.
But animatics are brilliant. It proves to you that it's working.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you do all this work and you're like, I wonder what this would look like. So there you go.
Thank you.
Okay, I will see you all next week. The recording of this should be up in Canvas within the hour or so. All right, I'll see you all next week.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Stay
Thank you.
safe.
Bye.
Bye.
Really.
Goodbye.